The relationship between Trump and Putin is fast approaching a sort of Shakespearean relationship, or at least a relationship out of literature, maybe a relationship out of Mary Shelley, given the fact that one of the characters is dead. But it's a tale of power, pragmatism, manipulation, and the peculiar dance on the global stage that has left Ukraine and much of the world hanging in suspense. If we begin with Trump's characteristic contradiction, on the one hand, he dangles threats of economic warfare at Putin, warning of massive sanctions, tariffs, and isolation if Moscow refuses to end its brutal campaign in Ukraine. On the other, he casts doubt on President Zelensky's leadership, suggesting quite brazenly that Ukraine shares the blame for its predicament, which is absurd. This is a black and white situation. This is a good and evil situation, and Ukraine is definitely not the aggressor. His latest quip that Zelensky is no angel, which I think I've dealt with in the past anyway, not only undercuts Western unity, but also plays directly into Putin's hands, offering him the perfect propaganda tool to paint Ukraine as undeserving of support. Meanwhile, Putin has adopted a calculated tone of admiration for Trump and hails him as pragmatic and smart, parroting Trump's baseless claim that the 2020 US election was stolen. Such rhetoric isn't merely an effort to flatter. It's a strategic bid to sway Trump into negotiations, into a framework where Europe and Ukraine are sidelined. And Putin's ideal scenario is clear: a bilateral deal with Trump, devoid of the pesky interference of NATO or Kyiv. Zelensky has astutely, however, warned that Putin's overtures to Trump are manipulative, that Putin is trying to play Trump, aimed at exploiting the US president's desire to end the war swiftly and claim a diplomatic victory. The Ukrainian president has been unequivocal. Peace talks without Ukraine on the table, or at the table, are non-starters, and rightly so. History reminds us that appeasement on terms dictated by an aggressor leads only to more aggression. Equally, history has taught us that a revenge settlement against an aggressor leads to a renewed war. We can see that very clearly from the Versailles treatment. Trump's threat to flood global oil markets and drive prices down to cripple Russia's war economy is a tactic with merit but limited immediacy. Oil sanctions and price caps are complex beasts, and Putin has proven adept at exploiting the shadow fleet and alternative buyers like China and India to sustain his coffers. And the real challenge lies in maintaining a united front among Western allies while avoiding the very economic fallout, such as inflation and energy crises, that Trump's strategy could exacerbate. Trump's inconsistent stance on NATO, demanding higher contributions while casting doubt on America's commitment, has emboldened Putin. And the Russian leader thrives on divisions within the alliance, rather like Satan. And Trump's ambivalence risks undermining the very deterrent keeping Moscow from expanding its ambitions into NATO territory. Yet Trump has also shown flashes of decisiveness, as seen during his first term when he authorized strikes against Assad's regime and Iranian General Soleimani. Could this unpredictability prove an asset or a liability in dealing with Putin? Only time will tell. As Putin attempts to cement his control over Crimea and the Donbass, claiming these as irrevocable parts of Mother Russia, the stakes for Ukraine are a matter of existence. For Europe, the implications are just as dire. A successful Russian gambit in Ukraine could embolden authoritarian regimes worldwide. And in this intricate power play, Trump and Putin appear to be two sides of the same coin, each driven by ego, strategic ambition, the threat of death, a belief in their ability to outmaneuver the other. But in the middle of this high-stakes chess game, it's Ukraine that bears the brunt. It's Ukraine that has to suffer. Its sovereignty, its people, its future, hanging in the balance. And the question isn't just whether Trump or Putin can negotiate peace, but at what cost? And to whom? And who are these two key players, Trump and Putin? As I say, one of them is almost certainly locked in the Smeg fridge, pushing up the Smedley HP frozen peas and dreaming of a new tomorrow in some sort of resurrected existence. It's nonsensical. We use the term Putin to describe what? A has-been, a concept, a freak, a decaying existence. We might as well use the correct term, a sort of deadness, a deadness. Because Mr. Putin, whether he is physically dead, whether he is physically alive, he abandoned humanity long ago. He deserves to be treated as if he is dead. And this sort of Schrodinger's cat approach to discussions about Putin then brings up another much more interesting question, I think. That is, if you aren't really dealing with Putin, who are you dealing with? Because if we don't know, how can we be sure that we can trust this person or these people? I'm not sure we can be. We need a little bit more truth. We need the war to finish. We need the resolution of whether Putin is alive or dead to be established. And then we need to work on a peace initiative that reintegrates Russia within the global community. But that reintegration is a vital part. It's as vital as the peace that must follow the ceasefire from Gaza and Israel. And the way that Trump has single-handedly, in one short speech, hold the ceasefire by aligning with the militant settlers and suggesting that Gaza is prime real estate. It doesn't bode well for future world peace and the establishment of a new neighborly cohesion between Russia and Ukraine, because that is what we're talking about. We're talking about two nations that must resolve their differences and live side by side, and that resolution cannot be based on a reward for military aggression and for threats.